So I hope you can see the screen. In the last class, I had started by defining endogeneity. Okay. Uh, OLS makes certain assumptions, these four assumptions, and endogeneity refers to the violation of the fifth assumption, as I've stated it over here. The covariance between the explanatory variable x and the error term should be 0. If this assumption is violated, then we have endogeneity. Okay. So if you're asked to define endogeneity, just state this: expectation u of u and xi, or covariance between u and xi, is not equal to 0. Now, this assumption is violated in 4 cases when you have reverse causality. That is, in a regression model, we assume x causes y, but in certain cases, y can also cause x. We have a two-way relationship. We can have an omitted variable in the regression model. Now, in regression models, we always omit some variables. But if the omitted variable is correlated with one of the included explanatory variables, then it is said to be, then the problem of omitted variable bias comes into play. Third is, when we are measuring the x, there's a systematic error in the measurement of x. If the measurement error is random, it's not a problem. But if there's a systematic error, then this can cause a problem. Lastly, selection bias. The sample is selected not in a random way, but there's some non-random pattern in who is selected for running the regression model. Okay, so I stopped at this point. So is there any queries about this? Or may I proceed to the next part? Okay. So I take it as an I take your silence as an indicator that you have understood everything that I've discussed. So now let us come to two parts, or rather, we want to discuss three things. Firstly, what is the problem? Why is endogeneity important? Why do we say that endogeneity, in the presence of endogeneity, regression models cannot basically measure association, not causality? Second is, how do we treat this problem? And third is, how do we test for endogeneity? Okay. Okay. So we had said that endogeneity leads to two types of problems. One is, the estimator is biased. That is, the estimate of beta that we get is biased. And secondly, even if we increase the sample size, the bias does not disappear. Okay. Now we can discuss this, prove this using a two variable or a multiple variable model. I'm going to cover the two variable model because it is easier to understand the problem in this case. In a two variable model, the multiple variable model is also easy, but why the bias appears is not so clear. So let us suppose that we have a regression. This is a true regression model, y equal to alpha plus beta 1 x1 plus beta 2 x2 plus the error term. Now, for some reason, we cannot include x2 into the regression model. Okay, x2 may not be observable, the data may not be there. For whatever reason, we drop x2. So the estimated model is y equal to alpha hat plus beta hat x1. plus the error term. Okay. So the model that we are estimating has only one explanatory variable, which is x1. x2 has been dropped. Okay, so the alpha and beta is on this abridged form of the model. Okay, so we have omitted variable, x2 is an omitted variable. Further, we assume that x2 is linearly related to x1. Instead of linearly related, we can also have a nonlinear relation. But for simplicity again, we assume it's a linear relation. And the relation is expressed in this form. x2 is equal to theta plus delta x1, and there's an error term over here. So if we substitute this into the model that we are estimating, see this error term ei includes the omitted variable plus other random variations. So let us suppose that these random variables is given by ui. So that means ei is equal to, this omitted variable is given by theta plus del xi, del x1 plus wi, and you have the random variation. Okay, so this is what we are substituting. Okay. So no, sorry, we are substituting over here in x2. So y equal to alpha plus beta 1 x1 plus beta 2. We are substituting x2 from here and ui. Okay. Okay. So if we simplify, then x1 comes twice. So the coefficient of x1 is okay. Better work it out. Okay. So let us say the true model is y equal to beta 0 plus beta 1 x1 plus beta 2 x2 plus u. Okay. We cannot include x2 in the estimated model. It can be unobserved. It's an unobservable variable. There's no data. It is observed, but we don't have the data for it. Whatever. Therefore, x2 is an example of an omitted variable. Okay. Further, we assume that x1 and x2 are linearly are related. Okay. So the model that we are using for estimation is This is the model that we are estimating. Okay. Okay. Now let us substitute the expression for x1, expression for x2 into the true model. So we get y equal to beta 0 plus beta 1 x1, and this will be theta plus del x1 plus w, and we have u over here. Okay. Okay, so this part comes over here. Then we have beta 1 plus beta 2. Sorry, I made a mistake over here. I'll rub out the x1 part. Okay. So this is the model that we should have got, beta 0. But if you look at it, we are actually getting, when we are estimating, this is the model. So we want to get beta 0, but what we are getting is alpha hat, which is equal to beta 0 plus beta 2 into theta. We want to estimate beta 1, but what we are getting is beta hat, which is equal to beta 1 plus beta 2 del. Okay. So therefore, what is the difference between beta 1 beta 1 comes out, and we have this is the bias in the model. Okay. So we are getting beta 1, but we are also getting a bias into the model. Now,
Yes, sir.
yeah,
Sir, in the true model, we are writing the intercept term as beta naught, but when we are estimating the true model only, we are writing it alpha hat.
yeah, sorry, এক মিনিট আমার এটা আসছে না। হ্যাঁ, তা
Why?
কারণটা তোমরা এখানে দেখো আলফা হ্যাটটা কি হচ্ছে। আলফা হ্যাটটা হচ্ছে যে what you are estimating, right? I've written alpha hat because you are not able to get beta 0. You're getting something totally different. Wait a minute.
So because of the omitted,
This is again there's a bias over here. দেখতে পাচ্ছ? তোমার in both the coefficients you have a bias. When when you're estimating, you have not included x2 into the model. You don't have data, so you drop it, right? So what happens is the estimate of your intercept term and the slope coefficient becomes bias. Your alpha hat becomes beta 0 plus beta 2 theta, and your slope coefficient becomes beta 1, which is okay, what you want to get, but plus beta 2 theta.
so instead of beta naught hat, we are getting alpha hat, and instead of beta 1 hat, we are getting beta hat just because of the omitted variable.
Yes,
Okay, sir.
that is creating a problem. Now, when are the two estimates correct? Suppose you have beta 2 is equal to 0. In that case, what will happen? Your alpha hat is equal to beta naught, beta hat is equal to beta 1. Your estimates are correct. Your estimates are unbiased and correct. But what does beta 2 imply? Equal to 0 imply?
No bias.
No. Beta 2 implies, look at this model. What does beta 2 equal to 0 imply? Forget about endogeneity. ভুলে যাও। একটা মডেলে যদি কোনো ভেরিয়েবলের কোএফিসিয়েন্ট 0 হয়, what does it imply?
Sir, x2 does not affect y.
Exactly. X2 should not have been in the regression at all. It is irrelevant. Okay, X2 is not related with Y. So it should not have been in the model. We should have dropped it. The other case is, suppose if del is equal to 0, in that case again we are going to get right, del 0 hole beta hat is equal to beta 1. But what does del equal to 0 imply? Look at this model. del যদি 0 হয় সেটার মানেটা কি?
Sir,
হ্যাঁ,
sir, Parida has written in the chat box that shouldn't E beta hat shouldn't it be E beta hat instead of E beta hat 1 in the last line?
এইখানটা ও কি বলছে?
Shouldn't it be expectation of
এইটে?
beta hat?
না স্যার, লেফট হ্যান্ড সাইডটা এক্সপেকটেশন অফ ব্র্যাকেটের
Wait,
ভিতরে
wait.
শুধু বিটা হ্যাট।
এইখানটা
হ্যাঁ
এইটে
মানে
বলছো?
হ্যাঁ মানে যে ওই বিটা 1 এর লেফট হ্যান্ড সাইডে যেটা এক্সপেকটেশন অফ বিটা hat মাইনাস বিটা 1 লেখা।
হ্যাঁ, আমরা তো এইটা বার করতে চাইছি যে এই এরার টার্মটা এইটার মধ্যে কোনো ডিফারেন্স হবে কিনা। তো এটাকে ভেঙে নিয়ে এক্সপেকটেশন অফ বিটা হ্যাট ইজ, এটাকে ভেঙে নিয়ে এই টার্মটা চলে আসছে।
কিন্তু স্যার ওই এক্সপেকটেশনও মানে ওপরের যে মানে ওই যে ইকুয়েশনটা তার ওপরের ইকুয়েশনটা যে লিখেছেন বিটা হ্যাট ইজ ইকুয়াল টু বিটা 1 প্লাস বিটা 2 ডেল্টা, এখন যদি আমরা বিটা 1টাকে লেফট হ্যান্ড সাইডে নিয়ে এক্সপেকটেশন নিই তাহলে তো শুধু এক্সপেকটেশন অফ বিটা 2 ডেল্টাই থাকবে মানে অ্যাজ আ বায়াস। বিটা 1টা তো থাকবে, হ্যাঁ বিটা 1টা তো
হ্যাঁ হ্যাঁ
থাকবে।
হ্যাঁ হ্যাঁ সরি, আমি ডিফারেন্সটা নিতে চাইছি। হ্যাঁ, তাহলে দিস শুড অ্যাকচুয়ালি বি 0, বাট হোয়াট উই হ্যাভ ইজ দেয়ার ইজ আ বায়াস ওভার হিয়ার। সরি, হ্যাঁ এখানে একটু আমার লেখাটা ভুল হয়েছে, আমার একটা বায়াস থেকে যাবে। দিস শুড বি 0, but here we can see that it is non-zero. So this is the bias. এখানেও এটা এটা এই লেখাটা ঠিক আছে এইখানটায়। তোমার এখানে এটা তোমার ভেঙে এক্সপেকটেশন অফ বিটা হ্যাট মাইনাস এক্সপেকটেশন অফ বিটা ওয়ান হচ্ছে এক্সপেকটেশন অফ বিটা ওয়ান ইজ বিটা ওয়ান আর বিটা হ্যাটের জায়গায় এটা বসালে বিটা ওয়ান ক্যান্সেল করে যাবে। ঠিক আছে, তাহলে এখানে ইফ ডেল হ্যাট coming to this part, del equal to 0 implies that beta 1 is equal to beta hat. Okay. Now, when does this occur? What is the implication of this? Del equal to 0 means that x1 and x2 they are not related. Okay. I had told you that omitted variable bias is occurs if you drop a variable. First condition, which should have been in the model. So this is the first condition. The second condition is the omitted variable is related with one of the included variable. Okay. So only if these conditions are violated, these two conditions for omitted variable bias is not satisfied, either the model should not have been in the regression model or it is not related to the included model. Only in this case, the bias disappears. Otherwise, you are going to have a bias always. The OLS estimate will always be biased. Okay, so your beta estimate of beta 1 will be biased. Okay, is it clear? Acha. Okay, now the second part is what will happen to the bias when n increases. So the question is that fine, we have a bias. But if we increase the sample size, what happens to the bias? If the bias disappears, we see that it is consistent. But if the bias does not disappear, we see it is the estimate is inconsistent. Okay. Okay. Acha, instead of yi, we substitute Sorry, 1 second, please. Oh, আজকে হ্যাঁ, আসসালামু আলাইকুম। হ্যাঁ, বল। হ্যাঁ, আজকে আসবেন নাকি? আজকে মেল আছে কিন্তু করতে পারে কালকে। আচ্ছা, আপনি একটু কালকে আসুন, আজকে আমরা একটু ব্যস্ত আছি। একটু জায়গাটা দেখাতে একটু অসুবিধা। কিন্তু আপনাদের একটু প্লাস্টিক আছে, খোলা জায়গা তো। হ্যাঁ হ্যাঁ, ঘাস না, সিমেন্টেরই থাকবে কিন্তু। আমরা তো গরিব যে কাপড়টা সেটার উপর আনতে পারি। না না না, ওরকম না, আপনাকে ওই তপসিয়ার দিকে আসতে হবে। তপসিয়া মোড় 24 নম্বর বাস স্ট্যান্ড, একদম যেখানে বাসটা দাঁড়াবে সামনে এইখানটা নামতে হবে। নেমে একেবারে ওর গায়ে কাউকে বলবেন সানফ্লাওয়ার গার্ডেন। সানফ্লাওয়ার গার্ডেন, হ্যাঁ, মানে বৃন্দাবন গার্ডেন ছাড়িয়ে ওটা তো ট্যাঙ্গার দিকটা হলো, আপনাকে তপসিয়ার দিকটা আসতে হবে। হ্যাঁ। I'm sorry, very sorry. Okay, where was we? Okay. Okay, so this is the formula for beta hat, and we are just substituting the value from the regression. Okay, now what we do is, এই পার্টটা আর এই পার্টটা এইটাকে একটা আমরা নিয়ে নিচ্ছি। Okay, so beta 1 is common over here. So I have beta. Forgot to put x bar. So this will be x1 minus x bar. So this is equal to beta 1. I've just done the first part. Okay, is this part clear?
Yes, sir.
This is covariance of u and x, and this is variance of x. So beta hat is equal to beta 1 plus covariance of this. So using p limits, p limit beta 1 hat, p limit of beta 1, which is beta 1, if covariance of ux is equal to 0, p limit is equal to beta 1. So that means the bias disappears when n tends to 0. If there's any bias, it disappears when n tends to 0. But if this is non-zero, this is the bias is going to remain. So the bias persists even when I had when n tends to when n becomes very large, when we increase the sample size. Okay. So we see that if you have endogeneity, I mean, obviously endogeneity, as I've told you, is that this term is not equal to 0. So when we are talking about endogeneity, we are referring to this situation.
স্যার
বলো বলো
পি লিমিট মানে কি?
পি লিমিট তোমাদের ম্যাম করায়নি?
আমি জানি না ওরকম স্যার, মাঝে অনেকদিন অ্যাবসেন্ট ছিলাম, যদি করিয়ে থাকে।
পি লিমিট ইজ দ্য প্রবাবিলিটি লিমিট, যে তোমার যখন মানে বেসিক্যালি হচ্ছে তোমার ওই অ্যাসিম্পটোটিক প্রপার্টি, যে স্যাম্পল সাইজটা যখন বাড়ানো হচ্ছে তখন তোমার লিমিটটা কি হচ্ছে।
ও আচ্ছা, মানে কনসিস্টেন্সি প্রপার্টিতে যেমন আমরা লিমিট n টেন্ডস টু ইনফিনিটি প্রবাবিলিটি অফ
হ্যাঁ হ্যাঁ
ওই জিনিসটা নিতাম, ওরাও।
হ্যাঁ হ্যাঁ হ্যাঁ।
আচ্ছা আচ্ছা, ঠিক আছে।
ঠিক আছে, এনি কোয়েশ্চেনস অর মে আই? ওহো, ঠিক আছে, তাহলে আমরা দেখছি। So we see that if we have endogeneity, then in the small sample you are going to end up with a biased estimate. If you move to the large sample, if you move to a large sample, increase the sample size, then also the bias will not disappear, but it is going to remain. So in other words, if you don't know what beta 1 is, whether it is 0, whether it is positive, or whether it is negative, then regressions models cannot be used to find out the causal relationships between X and Y. Okay, so then the question is that, I mean, this is a major problem because the raison d'etre of regression models is lost. Why did we prefer regression to correlation? We were able to test for causal relationships, not association. But if you have endogeneity, then that means you're back to the correlation form. You can only measure association, not causation. So how do we solve it? Okay, now before coming to the solution, it's a bit interesting. It's almost like a detective story. The solution was given quite long ago by Philip Wright, 1928, the tariff of animal and vegetable oils. He tried to examine the impact of tariff. You know what tariffs are, right? Taxes. I think in US, the US government imposed a tariff on import of animal and vegetables oils, and he wanted to examine the impact of this on domestic production. So in Appendix B of the book, he propounded a solution using a method which is called instrument variable model. Now, Wright was a master's in economics from Harvard University. Okay, but he taught economics, mathematics, literature, and education in Illinois College. His son, he was a fairly good, I don't know whether he was a good teacher or bad teacher. He's not particularly remarkable. His son, Sewell Wright, however, was a very prominent population geneticist and statistician. So people said that how could a person, I mean, if you look at this profile, economics, literature, education, I mean, he's not a specialist in econometrics, while his son was a specialist in econometric statistics. So people said that, I mean, how could Philip Wright propound a solution to such a fundamental problem? They said, no, Philip Wright didn't find out the solution. It was his son, Sewell Wright, who actually wrote this chapter. And because it was his father, he just said, okay, you don't have to honor me. Now, you have something called stylometrics, in which you look at the style of writing, the choice of words, and based on this, you can say that this person has written this book. Every person has a particular style. Like, for instance, I have a PhD student who is doing her work on cancer, and every second line she writes, cancer is a horrible disease. I have another student who always wrote, India is a land of diversity. So whenever I cut out the sentence, in the next draft, she again brought it back. So these are the styles. And using stylometrics, people came to the conclusion that no, Sewell Wright didn't write it. Philip Wright wrote the chapter. However, correspondence dated 1920s was subsequently discovered, and it indicates that Wright may have written the chapter as such, but the idea was it was a joint work by father and son. Okay, so this is just a story, you might be interested. Okay, now let's come to the solution. First the problem and then the solution. See, Wright wanted to find out what is the impact of imposing a tax on demand. Okay, so in order to do this, he first has to estimate a demand curve. Now, what do you require to estimate a demand curve? You require price and quantity. So he had data from 1912 to 1922, and using this, he estimated log of quantity equal to alpha plus beta log price. Why do we do this? Do you know why we take the log form? See, if we take the log form, take the derivative. What do we get? This is 0. Right? Now, if you send this over there, we have PQ okay. This is elasticity of demand, own price elasticity. So own price elasticity, if you just is simply the negative of the coefficient. There should be a minus over here. So we just put a minus over here. So what you have to do is, if you want to find out elasticity, you simply estimate this model and you multiply the coefficient, slope coefficient by beta by -1 in order to get own price elasticity. This is the advantage of sorry. This is the advantage of taking a log-log form. Okay. Okay. Now suppose you have data on price and quantity. Okay, so you have P1, Q1, P2, Q2. How to estimate the model? You simply take log of P, you take off log of Q. So you have log P1 to log Pn, log of Q1 to log of Qn, and then you regress. You take this as Y and this as X, and you simply estimate this. If you use data, you simply say log Q, log P, and you will get a regression result. You will get alpha hat, beta hat. Okay, but we are interested in beta hat. Now, what is the problem with this method? Can you tell me what is the problem with this method? Pratyush?
Sir, I think that in this case, the price and quantity will not have that linear or negative slope. Uh, if we remove the logs, then we will get P equal to intercept terms
না
quantity.
না না
This
না না যেটা হয় log is what is called a positive monotonic transformation. তোমাদের মনোটনিক সিকোয়েন্স পড়িয়েছিলাম মনে আছে? সেখানে
হ্যাঁ,
ট্রান্সফরমেশনও পড়িয়েছিলাম। মানে ধরো তোমার একটা র্যাঙ্কিং আছে x1 greater than x2 greater than x3 and so on, equal to xn. A monotonic transformation is that if you take the transformation and you get x prime, সেখানেও কিন্তু তোমার একই র্যাঙ্কিং থাকবে। Okay. So when you are running the regression, you're basically transforming in order to maintain the same ranking. Therefore, the value of the coefficients will change. That is true. মানে তুমি যদি এমনি লগ তুমি যদি লগ সরি রিগ্রেশন কিউপি করো, obviously the coefficient value will change. But you're going to get the same linear relation. The relationship will not be affected. এবং আমরা অনেক সময় রিগ্রেশনে আমরা লগ ফর্মটা নিই। না, এটা তোমার it's not a problem of statistics, it's a problem of microeconomics. I'll give you one hint. আচ্ছা, আনসার জাস্ট ওয়ান কোয়েশ্চন। আমাকে একটা জিনিস একটু বলো, এই কোয়ান্টিটিটা কি দিচ্ছে? হোয়াট ইজ দ্য কোয়ান্টিটি? আমরা যদি ডিমান্ড কার্ভ মেজার করতে চাই, ইফ ইউ ওয়ান্ট টু মেজার ডিমান্ড কার্ভ, what do we require? This is what we require.
Yes, sir.
So we require points on the same demand curve. তাই তো?
Yes, sir.
So what are the points? The points are combinations of price and quantity. এইভাবে আমরা n number of points identify করলাম on the same demand curve. We simply take the log and we run this model. Suppose we have I take points like this. ঠিক আছে, আমার কাছে এই প্রাইস কোয়ান্টিটি কম্বিনেশন আছে। So we have data on price quantity combinations from different demand curves. So this is D1, this is D2, this is D3. So on this we have point E1, this is E2, and this is E3. Can we estimate a single demand curve? And the answer is obviously no. We cannot estimate the demand curve equation or demand curve function from this data. Okay, we need points on the same demand curve. মানে একটা ডিমান্ড কার্ভ, ধরো D1 দিয়ে আমি অনেকগুলো পয়েন্ট পাবো, বা D2 দিয়ে পাবো, বা D3 ওপর অনেকগুলো পয়েন্ট পাবো। If I take points on a single demand curve, we take one combination here, another combination from a different curve, a third combination from D3. What we are going to get is something which is, well, you can't say that it is a demand curve, a single demand curve. This red line is not a demand curve. Okay, so do you understand the problem over here? I've not come to the problem, but do you understand what type of data we require?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
আচ্ছা, এইবারে যেটা হচ্ছে যে when if you look at the market data, okay, how is price determined? See, Sewell had data on prices and output. How is this price determined in a market? মাইক্রোতে চলে যাও, দিস ইজ সিম্পলি মাইক্রো থিওরি। ফার্স্ট ইয়ারে তোমরা ফার্স্ট সেমে কি পড়েছো?
স্যার এটা তো মানে মার্কেট স্ট্রাকচারের উপর ডিপেন্ড করে।
ঠিক আছে, তোমরা ফার্স্ট সেমে কি পড়েছো? অত বুদ্ধি চাই না,
স্যার পি
আরো
ইকুয়াল টু
বেশি।
কিউ।
পি ইকুয়াল টু কিউ এইটা পড়েছো?
না স্যার, স্যার ডিমান্ড ইকুয়াল টু সাপ্লাই।
ইকুইলিব্রিয়াম প্রাইস কিভাবে ডিটারমিন্ড হয়?
স্যার ডিমান্ড ইকুয়াল টু সাপ্লাই।
হ্যাঁ, ইন্টারসেকশন অফ
ডিমান্ড এন্ড সাপ্লাই কার্ভ।
demand and supply curves. So I have a demand curve and this is a supply curve. So this gives me price. ঠিক আছে? আচ্ছা, now over time what happens? তোমার supply curve টা চেঞ্জ করবে। So this is D1, this is S1 and I get P1. Over time what happens? You can have different types of ঠিক আছে? So this is now P2. You can think of a third demand curve. ঠিক আছে? So when I'm talking about price, this price data, this is actually obtained from the intersection of different demand and supply curves. Both demand and supply curve has shifted, so I'm getting new points. But in the earlier case, what did I tell you? What do we require to estimate a demand curve? we require price quantity combination from the same demand curve. But what we are getting? What we are getting is price quantity combinations from different demand curves. Okay, so the true demand curve cannot be estimated. If I just use this data, the data on price and quantity, I cannot estimate the true demand curve. Did you understand this? What I'm trying to estimate is either D1, D2, or D3. But what I'm getting is this is what I'm getting, the blue line, which is simply points on different demand curves. Okay, is this part clear?
Sir, but how is this like getting different demand curves related to taking log of the variable?
না লগের সঙ্গে কোনো সম্পর্ক নেই তো।
ও আচ্ছা স্যার, তবে বুঝেছি, হ্যাঁ স্যার।
এবারে যেটা হচ্ছে যে আমি এগুলোকে লগ নিচ্ছি, দ্যাট ইজ ডিফারেন্ট। কিন্তু যেটা হচ্ছে am I taking the correct price quantity combinations? That is the main thing, not log.
ওকে স্যার।
What I should have taken is price quantity combinations either along D1 or along D2 or along D3. But instead I've taken price quantity combinations on D1, on D2, on D3. Okay. So what Wright observes was a set of points indicating price and quantity combinations, points like this. Fitting a curve to these points will neither yield a demand curve nor a supply curve, because both demand and supply may have changed. Okay. So the solution was to find out, he wanted to estimate demand. So the solution was to find out a third non-price variable that shifts only the supply curve but not the demand curve. See, price must change. So what he can do is the demand curve is same, but the supply is changing. Okay. So as a result of this, what you have is you have prices, different prices on the same demand curve. Okay. So if you can find out what this Z is, so when Z changes, the supply curve will change, but not the demand curve. So this part is important. Z is a variable that affects only supply curve but not the demand curve. So when Z changes from, let us say, Z1 to Z2, only supply curve shifts from S1 to S2. The same demand curve remains, but now you have a different price quantity combination, P2, Q2. So you start with P1, Q1, you change Z, the supply curve shifts, you move down the demand curve to E2, and you get a different price quantity combination. Then you again change Z, you move to a new supply curve, but the demand curve is same, you move to E3, you get P3, Q3. So in that case, all the price quantity combinations will lie on the same demand curve. And so if you just fit a line to the points E1, E2, E3, you will get the demand curve. Right? So Wright used, what is this Z? Wright used rainfall in the dairy regions. He was using this animal farm, this is agriculture. So he used rainfall data. Rainfall will affect production, right? So the supply curve will be affected. But will it affect demand? There is no reason why it will affect demand. মানে ওদের দেশে তার খিচুড়ি হয় না, যে যেই বৃষ্টি পড়লো সবাই মিলে বসে খিচুড়ি খেতে শুরু করে দিল, খিচুড়ি আর বেগুন ভাজা খাচ্ছে. What is happening is the supply will increase. Okay. So rainfall will affect grazing and production of milk and butter, but it will not affect demand. So this type of variable is called instrument variable. This variable has two properties. First of all, it is correlated with the exogenous variable x1. Second is it is not related. This is called the property of instrument exogeneity. It is not correlated with the dependent variable. Okay, so we are estimating this, and we feel that expectation of u x1 is not equal to 0. Okay, so what we do is we take a third variable z, which is correlated with x1 but not with y. So this means that the variable z affects x but not y. Okay, so y equal to a1 b1. Okay, then we estimate using the least square method. In the first step, we regress the model x1 on z, and if we have any control variables, we also use that. Okay, so let me give the full form. So suppose our model is y equal to beta 0, I'm not writing the error. Okay, I'll write the error term. Okay. So x1 is the endogenous variable. Okay. So we identify an instrument Z such that covariance of x1z is not equal to 0, but covariance of z and y is equal to 0. This is called the first stage model. This first stage model is estimated. It takes the form, we regress the endogenous variable on the endogenous variable is regressed on the instrument variable z and other control variables. Which is x2 and x3. So after we have estimated this model, we predict x1. Okay. In Stata, the command is, after you have run the model, predict, and you give a name. You can say x hat, for instance, or maybe x1 hat. In the third step, you estimate the what we call a second stage model. Here y is estimated on not x1. You have data on x1, but you estimate it on the estimated x1s. So you don't use the actual values of x1 available to us. You use the estimated values of x1 that you obtain from in the second step, from the first stage model. You estimate this, and the interpretation is clear. You forget that it is estimate. You just interpret it just as you do the OLS model. You have the same beta 1. You take the standard error. You divide this beta by standard error to get t, and so on. The only difference is that the R square loses significance. You should, in these stages, if you use the instrument variable method, you should no longer report R square. Okay, is this part clear?
Yes, sir.
Now, one very important thing, suppose we have m number of endogenous variables in the model. Okay, so basically let us say these are endogenous. So in that case, we have to identify Z1, Z2, Zn such that covariance of x1, z1 is not equal to 0, covariance of x2, z2 is not equal to 0, okay, and covariance of y, z1, covariance of y, z2, covariance of y, zn are all equal to 0. Okay. Now over here you can see that a number of instruments m is also equal to, let us say we have taken k number of instruments, is equal to the number of endogenous regresses. This is called an exactly identified system. We can have k greater than m. So we should have taken, let us suppose m is equal to 5. So we, instead of identifying 5 instruments, we have identified 7 instruments. So we have additional or extra instruments, instrument variables. This is called over-identified. In such cases, it is better to have such a situation because you can undertake some additional steps. The third is when you have fewer instrument variables. This is called under-identified. In this case, the instrument variable model cannot be estimated. So in these two cases, we can use the instrument variable method to address the problem of endogeneity. But if you have an under-identified system, you cannot do so. So if you have, let us say, 4 endogenous variable, you have to have at least 4 instruments. If you have more, it is even better. But if you don't have so many, then you are in trouble. Okay, any questions so far?
Achha, sir, number of instruments, if we are denoting it by k, then when we are writing identify z1, z2, dot dot dot
এই
should
কন্ডিশন গুলো বলছো?
হ্যাঁ মানে zm লিখছি আমরা, এটা zk হওয়া উচিত না?
হ্যাঁ, কিন্তু এটা আমি প্রথমবার লেখার জন্য আমি এইভাবে লিখেছি। I'll tell you how we should write it.
ওকে ওকে
হ্যাঁ, মানে সাপোজ ইউ হ্যাভ x1 এর জন্য তোমার z1 z2 আছে, ঠিক আছে? R. Let us say for x2 you have ঠিক আছে, এটা একটু কনফিউশন হবে, তো আমি একটু চেঞ্জ করে দিচ্ছি। So for x2 you have two instruments and for x1 you have one instrument. তাহলে এখানে তোমরা লিখবে x1 z1 not equal to 0. y এর সঙ্গে তো ইজি, ইটস নট আ প্রবলেম। এইখানে হবে x2 z2 and x2 z3, আর y এর সঙ্গে এটা তো ইজি, সেটা আর লিখছি না আমরা রাইটে। ঠিক আছে? So actually this is how we should write it if we have an over identified system. In the earlier case I had written the exactly identified system, and I started with that. Is it clear? Yash? Clear?
Yes, sir.
ইয়াশ ছিল না কে ছিল? সম্ভব ছিল না?
I don't think it was. I think it was Sambhav.
Yes, sir.
হ্যাঁ। Okay. Now, how do we test whether we have endogeneity or not? Okay. See. Suppose x1 is actually exogenous. But we believe x1 to be endogenous and use the IV method to solve it. Okay. So the estimate beta hat will be consistent but less efficient. Variance নিয়ে problem হবে, not with regard to the bias part, consistency. Okay. Okay. Achha. Now, instead, if OLS had been applied, instead of using the IV method, if we had applied OLS, the beta hat, this is the IV beta hat, and this is the OLS beta hat. Then this beta hat would be consistent and efficient. Okay. Now look at the consistency part. Forget about the efficiency. That is what we're doing. So that means the estimates of beta hat under these two methods should be similar, because in both cases the bias is almost zero. So now we can use the Houseman test this will be the null hypothesis is that x1 is exogenous. See, this difference will be very small. Okay, the assumptions of this is that errors are independent and homoscedastic, which is a very strong assumption. Okay. Now there are problems with this, but I'm not going into those issues. I'm also not going into how we actually test for this. But is it clear that how we estimate how we apply the Houseman test?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'm sorry we had a power cut. So we will have another when the power comes back. So, okay, did everyone get this part? Sorry, I have to start presenting again. So the Houseman test.
Yes, sir.
Okay, do you have lab? This paper? তোমরা স্ক্রিনটা দেখতে পাচ্ছ কি?
No, sir.
হ্যাঁ এবার আসছে। হ্যাঁ এইটাই। So do you have lab? Sorry, I didn't get you. Do you have lab in this paper?
Sir, মানে econometrics we have practical.
হ্যাঁ সেটাই বলছি। আচ্ছা প্র্যাকটিক্যালের জন্য আমার 15-20 minutes লাগবে, which I don't have now. So what I can do is if you log out, মানে আর একটা দিন যদি তোমরা একটু 15-20 minutes দিতে পারো, মানে বিফোর ইন্ডিয়ান ইকোনমিক্স তো ঠিক ফ্রাইডেতে তোমার কি অবস্থা? ফ্রাইডেতে তোমাদের এসবি নিচ্ছে না?
স্যার ইন্ডিয়ান ইকোনমিক্স সেটা এসবি স্যার সকালে নিচ্ছেন, আমাদের
হ্যাঁ।
এসএম ম্যাম এর ক্লাস নেই দুপুরবেলা। তো ইফ ইউ ওয়ান্ট ইউ ক্যান এক্সটেন্ড ফ্রাইডেজ ক্লাস।
ফ্রাইডেস ক্লাস মানে 1:45।
15-20 মিনিটস এর ব্যাপার, তো উই ক্যান ডু ইট। তো
আচ্ছা।
আরেকদিন আরেকটা ক্লাস অ্যালট করা একটু কঠিন।
হ্যাঁ ঠিক আছে। সো আফটার ইন্ডিয়ান ইকোনমিক্স ইউ ক্যান রিমেইন বিহাইন্ড, আইল শো ইউ দ্য ল্যাব পার্ট, দ্যাট উইল বি বেস্ট। ঠিক আছে, তাহলে তোমরা এই করো, ইউ ক্যান লিভ and rejoin again. I'll stop presenting and stop recording.